useful to have that kind of source material at hand, and she's such a kind of gregarious and open and amazing woman that it made sense to speak to her. And she'd also been very involved in the whole making of the film, and before Chris died he'd also been very involved in the film. Obviously I had to bear in mind that she's a different woman now to the woman that I was playing, because she's very recently been through this kind of unspeakable tragedy in the murdering of her husband, which of course she's affected by, but she still manages to be this very open and loving and warm woman. And I think just to study the mannerisms and the dialect and the little idiosyncrasies that add up to make her who she is, it was really useful. No Clint Eastwood, but I was in awe of Clint Eastwood, and I got the script through my agents, and then he never meets actors. I auditioned, but he never sits in on the audition process because he remembers how hideous it is from when he was an actor. And I think he has such empathy for the hideousness of that experience that he won't be in the room. So I made a tape at Warner Brothers, and then I got the part, and I didn't meet him until I flew out. I just, what did I do? I just tried to act well, I think. It's so not conducive to creativity, that environment. No matter how nice, I mean, I'm sure you guys know, but the casting agent it's impossible to really be good in that environment. But sometimes, rarely, it works. I think it had been so long since I'd done an audition, because I live in London, so everything gets cast out of LA, and I often just make tapes in my kitchen, and it's much more controlled, and I can agonise over it for hours and edit it and make it good. But to be there with the casting agent I was just a wreck. Yeah, he's often under budget, under schedule. It's a totally new way of working. First of all, he doesn't say action, and no one really told me that. So I was there on my first day, obviously completely terrified. And there's Clint Eastwood in the corner, and again, still can't speak or look at him in the eye. And I knew we were kind of getting ready to start shooting, but I was sort of standing there like a lemon, waiting for action. And the DP looked at me and he was like, okay. Right. And then occasionally he'll say, instead of action, he doesn't say action, because when he was doing westerns and the director said action, the horses would bolt. So he'll sometimes go, okay, let's have a go. And then at the end he never says cut, he's like, stop. And once you kind of get the hang of it, it's great, but at first it's like, what is going on? But I also remember, because he's so chilled out, he's the most laid-back person, amazing man, and not laid back just because he knows exactly what he wants. But I remember the first day sort of going up to him and trying to be an annoying actress and say, in this moment, what do you mean, and he was like, let's just try one. And that was the moment where I didn't know that we were. And so we tried it, and I was like, it was all right, but I think I could do it better. So I went up to him and I was like, so I was just, and he was like, have a great weekend. As he walked away, and my jaw was on the floor, Bradley was laughing his head off, and he went, you cast the right people. And that was it. That was day one on the Clint set. And then once you surrender to it, once I got, I was like, I better bring it on take one, and then once you get the hang of it, you settle in, and actually it's lovely to be done a bit early and get home to the baby,
You mentioned Bradley. He's so good in this movie.
How wonderful it is, even if it wasn't. But I cannot express, and I'm not that good an actress, but I honestly don't think I've ever worked with anyone who was more, first of all, just warm and kind, and he's a huge movie star, and what's amazing about him is even, in that position, if someone's that successful, they can be really nice, but there's often a kind of sense of hierarchy, even if it's not acknowledged, but there's just a slight difference. And he's so just charming and sweet, and I think he just can't believe that he gets to do this for a living. And aside from that, his commitment to playing Chris was astounding. He put on 40 pounds of muscle, all naturally. He was eating the most disgusting amount of food. Just constantly eating and waking up at 4 in the morning, training for 2 hours, coming to work, shooting all day, training for 2 hours after work. He was a machine, and he completely morphed into this character. I think I met Chris before I met Bradley. He didn't stop being Chris for the entire time, and I think he really took on this huge responsibility of playing this man who, for many people, is a hero, and and he just completely immersed himself in it, and it was astounding. I learned a huge amount from it. Even though I don't sound like I was, because I moved to London when I was 1, but I was actually born in New York.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's not how they talk in New York, by the way. I know that. I was.
All right.
Yeah. No, I was raised in London, but I have dual citizenship. My dad's from Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice.
There was no
He doesn't say action, and he doesn't rehearse.
And he doesn't rehearse. So Bradley and I snuck a few Skype sessions in.
That's a big thing now, Skype.
It's a big thing when you live in London, yeah. But no, we didn't have any formal rehearsal at all. I think the ethos behind it for Clint is that the first time that you say a line, something will happen that you'll never be able to repeat. And actually, it is really interesting from his trailer. A lot of the time when it was a phone call or on set, but not where I could see him. But it was really hard. And actually, I think the hardest thing I've ever done, acting-wise, was the scene where I come out of the hospital and have to be happy that I'm having a son, and then turn in that moment to, terror and heartbreak. And it was, before you do an emotional scene, you can stick some Sigur Rós on and get into a sad zone and, indulge yourself for the whole day. But with that moment, to start at a point of elation and go to despair was really, really difficult. Because there was no gunfire on the, you have to use your imagination. I've always loved accents and using a voice as a means of finding a character. And for me, that's really where it's always begun. And I find it very self-conscious to act in my own voice. I find it really hard. But when it's something specific and semi-regional, there's this amazing dialect coach called Tim Monarch, who is responsible for some amazing accents that you've heard in films, and we've worked together over the years, and so I can kind of Skype with him. But on the whole, I think, fortunately, I have a good ear for accents, and so if I listen to tapes over and over, and I tend to find it that way. I had every intention of meeting with women, but I kind of had everything I needed in Taya, and she has spent so much time with other military wives that she was really my oracle. But we did spend a lot of time and hours talking and trying to understand it. I watched a lot of documentaries and read books, and I know that Bradley did months and months of research as well. Although Chris was never officially diagnosed with PTSD, and it's never given that title in the film, obviously he's having some serious issues, and I think it's such a stigmatized, complicated thing, that illness, and I think it's impossible to be in that situation where you're on the brink of death every day and not come back, and shooting children, not come back changed and damaged by it. So I think it is a really important conversation to have, and I hope that this man, I think that's the truth. He obviously gets sent everything, but I think I think he reads something, and if he sees it as a film in his head, he'll do it. I'm pretty sure that's what happened with this, and I think that's why he doesn't rehearse. That's why he doesn't. I think he so trusts honesty in the moment that to kind of overanalyze it and dissect it doesn't make sense, because you just have to show up and be present. But he had the film in his head.